A blizzard howls across the frozen plains. The wind screams over an ocean of snow, swallowing every sound except the hiss of the storm. Temperatures plunge far below freezing. The air itself burns to breathe. In this endless white void, nothing should survive. And yet, through the chaos, a warm orange glow flickers on the horizon. A cluster of teepees, their hides rimmed with frost, stand unmoved against the storm. Smoke rises calmly from their peaks, not wildly torn by the wind, but guided upward, as if the lodges themselves are breathing. Step closer. Inside one of these teepees, the air is soft and golden. The crackle of a small fire fills the center, surrounded by carefully placed stones. A family sits in comfort, faces calm, hands busy repairing tools. A child dozing near the warmth. Outside, the world freezes. Inside, life continues, stable, warm, alive. How was this possible? How could a structure made of animal hides and wood withstand the brutal cold that could kill within minutes? To most outsiders, the teepee looks simple. A conical tent, some poles, a fire. But the truth is far more extraordinary. Beneath its surface lies a complex heating system, a masterpiece of natural engineering refined over centuries. The smoke flaps, inner liners, dew cloths, and snowbanks weren't random. They were carefully orchestrated components of a living machine, designed to manage temperature, airflow, and comfort with stunning precision. The teepee didn't just keep people alive, it kept them thriving. It balanced heat and oxygen, directed smoke away, and captured warmth in layers of air. A natural insulation system so advanced that modern architects still study its design today. And yet, these secrets have been nearly forgotten, buried under centuries of misunderstanding and oversimplification. The world remembers the teepee's silhouette, but not its science. Before we open that door, before we uncover the ingenious ways Native Americans mastered warmth in the heart of the cold, take a moment to join this journey. Hit that subscribe button, because every day we reveal powerful stories about Native Americans and their genius ways of survival. Wisdom so timeless, it still outsmarts modern technology. What you're about to discover isn't just about staying warm. It's about the art of living in harmony with nature's most dangerous season. The teepee wasn't a tent. It was a climate system, designed by necessity, guided by respect, and perfected by generations who refused to fear the cold. Welcome to the world of forgotten warmth, the hidden science of winter teepee heating, where survival wasn't luck, it was knowledge. Winter on the Great Plains was not a season, it was an adversary. For months, icy winds roared without mercy, sweeping across miles of open grasslands where the horizon vanished in white. Temperatures could plunge to minus 30 degrees Celsius, and frostbite came faster than fire. Yet somehow, Native American families didn't just endure this, they built warmth where none should exist. The teepee, at first glance, seemed impossibly fragile against such power. Canvas or hide walls, open tops, and thin poles hardly matched the image of a winter fortress. But that simplicity was deceptive. Every part of the teepee, its angle, its airflow, its lining, was a deliberate act of design, tuned to turn cold air into comfort. While snow buried the plains, inside the lodge temperatures could stay near room warmth, even as blizzards raged outside. At dawn, smoke curled silently from the smoke flaps, proof of a living fire breathing within. Families woke to the soft crackle of embers and the golden pulse of coals. The hides along the walls glowed faintly with reflected heat, and the air, though thin, stayed gentle and breathable. But the true secret to surviving such bitter winters wasn't just the fire. It was how the fire worked with the teepee itself. A symphony of heat, airflow, and insulation worked in perfect rhythm, using the elements to fight the elements. The teepee didn't trap warmth by force. It guided it, letting nature do the heavy lifting. And right there, within that harmony, lies the hidden brilliance of their survival system. The brilliance of the teepee begins not with fire, but with design. Its shape, that elegant cone rising from the frozen earth, wasn't art. It was aerodynamics, balance, and precision engineering, created long before blueprints or drafting tables. Every angle, every seam, every flap served a purpose: to tame the cold and guide the air. At the top, 2 smoke flaps opened and closed like lungs, controlling the flow of air. During a storm, they faced away from the wind, preventing downdrafts and allowing smoke to exit smoothly. On calmer days, they could be adjusted with wooden pegs and poles to draw in oxygen, feeding the fire below. Together, the flaps and the wind created a natural chimney effect, cycling fresh air through the teepee while keeping warmth concentrated inside. Next came the inner liner, a layer of hide or cloth suspended a few inches from the outer covering. Between these 2 skins lay a trapped layer of air, invisible yet vital. It acted as insulation, capturing heat while blocking drafts. In deep snow, tribes packed snow or sod around the teepee's base, sealing the edges to keep out the bitter wind. The result? A structure that breathed just enough to stay warm, never stifled. Even the tripod foundation, the 3 central poles supporting the frame, served more than stability. Their precise angles distributed weight evenly, allowing the teepee to withstand howling winds and heavy snow without strain. The genius of the teepee wasn't in its complexity. It was in its cooperation with nature. It didn't resist the wind, it moved with it. It didn't fight the cold, it balanced it. What seemed simple to outsiders was in truth a masterpiece of environmental design. At the center of every teepee, glowing like a heartbeat, was the fire pit. Small, simple, yet perfectly placed. It wasn't just a source of heat, it was a piece of environmental engineering. Every ember, every wisp of smoke followed rules refined through generations of observation. The fire pit was always set in the exact center beneath the smoke flaps. This wasn't aesthetic symmetry, it was physics. The rising warm air from the fire created a vertical current, drawing cold air inward through the teepee's lower edges. This circulation fed oxygen to the flames and pushed smoke upward, venting cleanly through the flaps above. No mechanical fans, no chimneys. Just the wind and the wisdom of airflow. The stones lining the pit were more than decoration. They absorbed heat from the flames, storing it like batteries. When the fire burned low, the stones continued radiating warmth for hours, maintaining steady temperatures through the night. Children slept closest to these stones, safe, warm, and soothed by their soft glow. Even the firewood was chosen with precision. Pine, cedar, and willow each burned differently. The tribes knew which logs sparked, which smoked, which lasted. They didn't waste wood on roaring flames. Instead, they built low, slow-burning fires, efficient enough to heat the space without suffocating it. Maintaining this delicate balance required skill. Too much fuel, and the teepee filled with smoke. Too little, and frost crept across the hides. Firekeepers learned to read the flame's color, the pull of the wind, and the whisper of the smoke. Inside that circle of warmth, families cooked, sang, and told stories, not realizing that their humble fire was, in truth, a living technology, the perfect harmony between flame and breath. From the outside, a teepee looked fragile, a thin layer of hide against endless cold, but inside, it was a masterpiece of thermal strategy, designed to trap warmth, block wind, and breathe all at once. Every layer, every seam had a purpose. Nothing was accidental. The first secret lay in the double wall system, the outer cover and the inner liner. The space between them trapped air, forming a natural insulation barrier, much like the walls of a modern insulated home. The heat from the central fire warmed this air pocket, creating a consistent temperature that lingered long after the flames dimmed. The liner itself, usually made from buffalo hide or later canvas, hung from the interior poles, stopping a few inches above the ground. This small gap was critical. It allowed fresh air to enter from beneath the teepee edge, feeding the fire's oxygen flow, while keeping cold drafts off sleeping areas. The result was a self-regulating climate. Warm but breathable, sealed but alive. In deeper winter, tribes took it further. They banked snow around the teepee's base, creating a windproof seal. The frozen snow acted as a natural insulator, preventing heat loss through the floor. Inside, layered buffalo robes and woven mats lined the ground, turning frozen soil into a cushioned, radiant surface. Even the hides themselves were smart insulation. Buffalo skin, thick and slightly oily, repelled moisture while reflecting radiant heat inward. On warmer days, the covering could be lifted slightly to vent excess warmth, a primitive yet effective version of climate control. The teepee didn't fight the environment. It adapted to it. Its warmth wasn't forced. It was earned through precision, patience, and perfect understanding of the elements. Keeping a fire alive on the Great Plains was no small feat, especially where trees were rare and the nearest wood might be miles away. Yet Native Americans developed a system so clever it turned scarcity into sustainability. Their fires never roared with excess. They whispered efficiently, burning steady and long, powered by resources others would have overlooked. Their first secret fuel wasn't wood at all. It was buffalo chips. Dried dung from the massive herds that roamed the plains, it became one of nature's most perfect fuels. When dried, it burned hot, clean, and slow, producing little smoke and no sparks. Entire families collected and stacked these chips outside their teepees, like modern households stack firewood. During deep winter, a handful of buffalo chips could keep the lodge comfortably warm all night. When wood was available, every stick was used wisely. Pine kindled easily, cedar gave fragrance and quick heat. Harder woods were saved for the coldest nights. Fires were built low and compact, not wide and wasteful. Stones around the pit absorbed the heat, releasing it slowly like natural radiators. Even the fire maintenance was an art. The goal wasn't brightness, it was endurance. A perfectly banked fire could last till morning, revived with a single breath and a few new chips. Every spark was precious, every ember preserved. Through this ingenuity, the tribes achieved what modern heating systems still strive for: maximum warmth from minimal fuel. In the treeless plains, survival wasn't about abundance. It was about understanding. They proved that comfort doesn't come from burning more, but from burning smarter. And in those glowing fires of dung and wood, they left behind a message. Waste nothing. Use everything. And warmth will always find you. Inside the teepee, fire wasn't just built, it was managed like a living being. Every breath of wind, every shift of flame mattered. The secret to staying warm without suffocating in smoke lay in a delicate partnership between airflow and awareness. At the heart of this balance was placement. The fire sat perfectly beneath the smoke flaps, aligned with the teepee's central axis. As warm air rose, it drew in cooler air from beneath the lower edge of the liner, creating a continuous upward draft. This natural convection ensured the air stayed fresh and oxygen-rich, while smoke drifted smoothly upward, not into eyes, not into lungs. The smoke flaps acted as fine-tuned regulators. Adjusted with poles from inside, they could catch or release the wind, shifting with each gust. Skilled residents could read the air like a language, knowing when to open one flap slightly or close the other to redirect the flow. Even during a storm, smoke escaped efficiently, and warmth stayed steady. At night, the art of banking the fire began. A thin layer of ash was drawn over the coals to preserve them until morning, preventing oxygen from escaping too quickly. When dawn came, one careful breath could reignite the embers. No matches, no wasted fuel. The teepee's design turned the harshest winds into allies. Instead of smothering the flame, the drafts that entered through its base were harnessed to feed it. The result was a constant exchange. Fire feeding the air, air sustaining the fire. This wasn't random luck. It was a science built from centuries of observation. Inside the teepee, warmth wasn't forced into existence. It was invited, guided, and maintained with precision and patience. Inside a teepee on a frozen night, warmth didn't come from fire alone. It came from people. The tribes of the Great Plains understood a truth modern science confirms. Shared heat is shared survival. Their way of life turned community into a biological heating system, one that transformed the coldest lodges into sanctuaries of comfort. Sleeping arrangements were intentional. The fire pit held the center, its glow reaching outward like a sun. Around it, family members arranged themselves in concentric circles. Elders nearest the warmth, children nestled between, and younger adults toward the perimeter, forming a living insulation ring. The hides beneath them absorbed and reflected body heat, keeping the ground beneath from stealing warmth. Buffalo robes, layered thick, added more than softness. Their hollow hairs trapped heat as efficiently as modern thermal blankets. In the silence of night, the teepee's air stayed gentle and balanced, warmth radiating from both flame and flesh. Even conversation, laughter, and the rhythmic beat of drums played a role. Every human breath contributed to raising the internal temperature, turning gatherings and ceremonies into acts of collective heating. Warmth wasn't just physical, it was emotional. The Plains people understood that the body, the fire, and the teepee were parts of one system, each supporting the others. When storms roared and snow buried the earth, they survived not through isolation, but through closeness. While today's world heats through electricity and solitude, their warmth came from connection. It was proof that survival isn't always about technology. Sometimes it's about togetherness. In every teepee, through every winter night, family bonds were as vital as any flame, the heartbeat of human resilience glowing quietly beneath buffalo hides and endless stars. The Plains tribes knew that staying warm began long before the fire was lit. The teepee was their shelter, yes, but the body itself was another hearth, one that needed fuel, layers, and care. Their mastery of winter survival extended beyond architecture. It lived in their clothing, their food, and their understanding of the human body's heat. Clothing was the first defense. Buffalo hides, with their dense, insulating fur, became cloaks, robes, and leggings lined with soft deerskin. Each piece was tailored for mobility and warmth, layered to trap air just like the teepee walls. In blizzards, hoods and mittens made from rabbit fur sealed off the wind's bite, while moccasins stuffed with dried grass kept feet insulated and dry. Nothing was wasted. Even sinew served as stitching, adding flexibility and strength. But the tribes also fueled warmth from within. Hot soups, roasted meats, and bone broths simmered over slow fires, releasing not just nourishment, but comfort. Fat-rich diets provided the calories needed to generate body heat, a science of survival understood instinctively long before modern nutrition. And then there was hydration. Melted snow, warmed gently by fire-heated stones, replaced lost moisture and prevented fatigue, a small act that kept the body strong against the cold. Together, these habits created a second layer of heating, an internal system working in harmony with the teepee's external design. The people, the clothing, and the food all formed one circle of warmth. Their survival wasn't accidental. It was intelligent adaptation. They turned diet into energy, hides into armor, and simplicity into technology. Even when the world froze around them, they carried the fire within, proving that true warmth begins not with what surrounds you, but with what you create inside. To outsiders, the teepee may appear as just fabric and poles, a primitive dwelling at best. But to the native peoples of the Great Plains, it was alive. Every sound, every draft, every flicker of flame played a role in a larger rhythm, a balance between fire, air, earth, and spirit. The teepee wasn't built against nature, it was built with it. Each element within it served another. The fire in the center gave warmth, light, and food, but also demanded respect. The air, drawn through the base, kept the fire breathing and the people safe. The earth, covered with hides and mats, grounded the heat, holding it steady. And the covering, made from buffalo hide, completed the circle, strong enough to repel snow, yet flexible enough to move with the wind. The teepee's shape embodied harmony itself, the circle of life mirrored in its floor plan, the conical form pointing toward the heavens. This design wasn't random. It reflected spiritual as well as practical perfection. Even the smoke rising through the flaps symbolized prayers and gratitude ascending to the sky. Within this sacred geometry, the cold outside ceased to matter. A teepee was more than shelter. It was a living organism that breathed, warmed, and protected its inhabitants. Every adjustment to a flap, every ember tended, was an act of communication with the elements. In that harmony, survival became effortless. Nature wasn't something to be conquered. It was a partner to collaborate with. And that is the hidden truth behind the teepee's warmth. It wasn't just a structure. It was a conversation with the earth. A dialogue of respect that made even the harshest winter feel like home. In an age of electric heaters, insulated walls, and digital thermostats, it's easy to forget that warmth once came from wisdom, not wires. The ingenious heating systems inside Native American teepees prove that comfort doesn't require modern technology. It requires harmony with the environment. What they built centuries ago wasn't primitive survival. It was eco-engineering. Modern architects and sustainability experts now study teepee design for inspiration. Its shape, a cone that naturally circulates air, offers lessons for passive heating and ventilation systems. The double-wall insulation and smoke flap mechanisms show how simple physics can create perfect indoor climates without fuel waste. Even the use of local, renewable materials demonstrates the heart of green design. Use what you have, use it wisely, and let nothing go to waste. But perhaps the greatest lesson isn't structural, it's philosophical. The Plains tribes understood that warmth wasn't something to be dominated from nature, but something to be shared with it. They never took more fuel than they needed. They never built more shelter than the land could sustain. Their comfort came from balance, not excess. In a world racing toward sustainability, we are finally catching up to what these communities practiced effortlessly. Their designs remind us that resilience isn't built in laboratories. It's learned through listening. The teepee endures as both home and teacher, a timeless example of architecture that breathes, adapts, and respects. Its greatest secret wasn't hidden in its hides or poles. It was hidden in its values. That warmth, true warmth, isn't just about temperature. It's about relationship. When humans live in rhythm with nature, the cold can never truly win. As the last embers fade and the storm outside quiets to a whisper, one truth glows brighter than the fire itself. The wisdom of warmth was never lost. We just stopped listening. The native peoples of the Great Plains didn't fear winter. They mastered it. Their teepees weren't shelters of desperation, but symbols of balance, designed through patience, respect, and observation. Every pole, every flap, every ember told a story of families who faced the cold not with fear, but with understanding. They knew that heat wasn't about overpowering nature. It was about working with it. The teepee's fire didn't fight the wind. It danced with it. The hides didn't block the cold. They shaped it. Every winter spent inside those walls was a quiet triumph of intelligence over hardship. If this journey through the forgotten winter teepee heating secrets opened your eyes, don't let the flame go out here. Subscribe now, because every day we uncover powerful stories about Native Americans and their genius ways of survival. From fire that never dies to shelters that defy the storm. Share this video if you believe ancient wisdom still has lessons for our modern world. Comment below with what amazed you most: the airflow, the insulation, or the harmony between humans and nature. These aren't myths, they're blueprints. They show us that progress doesn't always mean invention. Sometimes it means remembrance. The next time winter wind howls outside your walls, remember this. Once, long ago, a people turned the coldest land into a cradle of life. Not through technology, but through understanding. And that fire, born in the heart of the teepee, still burns, quietly, within us all.